So now to introduce our speaker, Dr. Woodall. He will do a much better job of doing this during his workshop session, but Dr. Woodall, to be put simply, has worked with communication and public speaking for over 10 years and has taught it, and I am absolutely sure that the knowledge that all of you will gain out of this session will help you and aid you in forming your presentations, and it will really bolster it up. So please give a warm welcome to our speaker, Dr. Woodall.
Good morning, all. How are we doing today? How sleep deprived are we? Very. That's good to hear. When I was y'all's age, I competed as a debater, and I am quite familiar with the not sleeping during the night of competition ritual. It is a strange superstition to believe that if you skip sleep, somehow you will do better. But when someone inevitably wins and justifies the principle, it only keeps us going. So, thank you, Alexander, for the introduction. As he mentioned, my name is Dr. Ant Woodall, and I hold a PhD in communication from the University of Oklahoma. I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, completed my PhD last year, and currently working here at Northeastern University as a postdoctoral teaching associate where I teach public speaking. I have taught public speaking classes for about 10 years now, but before that, I also worked as a tutor. And before that, I worked in debate camps, helping people learn how to refine their arguments and speak more effectively. I love public speaking, and I love what it can do for people. It is my belief as a teacher that good speakers do more than get what it is they need from funders, from providers. Good speakers are able to transcend those expectations, and they are able to connect with people on a more basic level. And so, in this workshop, I'm going to help instill 3 basic principles for you. You will grow immeasurably as a speaker if you can follow these 3 basic rules. First, speaking is about you and your audience connecting. You should try to be the speaker you needed to hear when you were younger. Think about the kinds of teachers that you had when you were younger, the ones you loved, the ones you hated, and what distinguishes them. For a lot of us, the speakers that we loved when we were younger have a lot of those same traits in common. Secondly, your speaking skills will grow over time, but which skills you use vary based on the situation that you are in. For your pitches later today, depending on the room that you are in, you are going to have to tailor your pitch to make it more effective. And so rules and advice will clash and should be balanced out with contextual cues. And third, most importantly for you all, speech solves problems. So don't run from the hard problems, run towards them. With your own active presentation, you are changing the world and making a place for yourself within it. So, I want to help give you some more skills to do so. As a debate alumni, I was taught to do everything in 3s. 3 reasons, 3 arguments, 3 sources, and so you'll find the number 3 is all throughout this presentation. And in doing so, I'm going to give you 3 skills. I want to help transform your public speaking anxieties into a force for personal growth. Second, I want to help translate technical terms into plain language for a diverse audience. And third, I want to help you transfer your speaking tools into habits for your success. You all have already gotten advice on how to talk to people, and I want to help take what you already know and make it even better. And that starts with navigating public speaking anxiety. I started studying communication because I got thrown into a debate class in high school, and I was terrified of speaking in front of other people. What I found over the years is that all of the anxieties that we experience while talking in front of other people tend to boil down to one basic concern. We worry that we are not worthy of speaking to a group. We believe that we don't have something important to say, or that we are somehow not qualified or capable enough to say what it is we have to say. And that breaks down into a variety of other fears. And I want to dispel 3 of the most common ones for you. First, It's when people say they get scared because they have to talk in front of other people. I hear this a lot from folks who believe that they have accents, who have speech impediments, or who talk in a way that they think is somehow not normal. They worry about being judged. And what I have found is one of the most important things you can understand about that fear is that it is near universal. Almost everyone is nervous, but your anxieties will impact you in a unique way. Knowing what those anxieties do to you will help reduce their influence, and if you can help mitigate them, you can help have a sense of control over your anxiety and make it work for you rather than against you. Second, I see this a lot in my students today. Many students, particularly in STEM, execute what they think is a perfect plan, and they worry that something will go wrong. So what do we do when something goes wrong? What if something doesn't work? I have seen this so many times in my life. I've given presentations with my grade on the line and found that the projector doesn't work, or the microphone doesn't work. The television screen decided not to work today. So we have a small technical malfunction. And always, there is something important to learn in this moment, which is there is much you cannot control. It is as important to adapt as it is to plan. You are asking people to change their infrastructure because of an idea that you have. You need to be able to embody that change in your speaking style, and in doing so, you will become more convincing. And third, I always hear people panic about saying the wrong thing. I've seen students panic and accidentally say cuss words. I've seen people panic and accidentally say words that had nothing to do with their speech. And in every case, the rule is the same. Mistakes happen. What matters is what you do when you make them. If you panic and you say the wrong word, keep going. Do not draw attention to it unless you feel you have said something grievously offensive. Otherwise, you can beat yourself up after the presentation. But in the moment, you're on the clock. And the best thing you can do is focus. Now, to help understand how to navigate our anxieties and unpack them, I also want to bring you back to something that maybe wanted you to sign up for this in the first place. To understand how to simplify complex information, we need to think about why we love technology. And so I want to ask a few folks in the audience, can you remember when you first became fixated on technology? How old were you? And what technology got you hooked? Anyone want to volunteer?
PS3.
PlayStation 3? How old were you?
Probably like 8, 7.
7 or 8? That's a good time. I think I was about the same age when I got my first video game console. It was a Game Boy Color. Others?
I wanted to play games on my graphing calculator, so I started making games.
Playing games on a graphing calculator is impressive. I got yelled at for playing with my graphing calculator. Others? Let's take one more.
I got a BlackBerry at age 11, I think, and just playing games on that was the funniest thing in my life.
See, these kinds of stories are why we end up becoming obsessed with technology, why we end up investing countless hours and for some reason choose not to sleep on a Friday night. This sort of passion is why you all are here. It also makes you a huge part of who you are. And there are always strengths and cons to who we are. So this leads us to skill number 2 that I want to talk you through, which is translating your technical terms. And it has 2 important guiding observations in understanding your judges and how they may look at the phenomena that you are talking about. First and foremost, citizens in our modern age have become monitorial. People do not engage in civic life the way they used to. It is more appropriate to think of it like parents at a community pool watching their children swim. As long as they can see their kids swimming and having fun, they mind their own business and stay back and relax. But when they see something go wrong, they step in and act. The second thing to think about, from a classical sci-fi writer and a convention that I'm sure many of you have heard before, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. You all are working with technologies that I will never understand. My PhD is understanding people, but not tech. Your judges may or may not have that same background. And if you plan to pitch to urban planners in the future, they may come from that same background. For someone without your knowledge and your passion, what it is you are explaining to them could be considered magical. And so we have to understand how to teach magic to somebody. Much modern policy is written in plain language. Our simple terms are usually capped at a certain reading level. In my hometown, it was usually at about an 8th grade reading level. I don't know what it is here in Boston. So, to help make technical jargon more useful, we have to convert it to plain language using several instructions. 2 simple steps that you can do to improve your pitches are to simplify advanced jargon into more basic terms that you would have recognized when you were younger. Think about that younger you that fell in love with technology at that younger age. How could you have explained your pitch to them? And then secondly, shorten the explanation and remove redundant details. What does your audience really need to know? Here's an example. Behind these 2 orange blocks are 2 paragraphs of text that I am going to read off for you very briefly. They are both summaries of a research project that I am currently working on here at Northeastern. On the left will be the technical version, and on the right will be the plain version. First, I am training a machine to better identify racial and gendered biases in the identification of author names and helping it better pull those names using cross-reference sources from academic databases and university profiles. Then it translates those names into an Excel document that I can upload to an algorithm that runs names against census backgrounds so we can identify structural discrimination and omission of authors. Does that sound like a mouthful? I see some deer in the headlights look, so I'm going to say yes. Here's a simplified version in plain language. When AI tries to find author names for academic papers, it is more likely to misidentify the first names of women and people of color. I am trying to find out why and train it to stop making that mistake. By doing so, I hope to let AI help combat patterns of discrimination in academic research. Do you see the difference in language between these 2 paragraphs and how one is simpler than the other? If you can deconstruct the complexities of your pitch, you will be able to help explain magic to your audience members and make the impossible even more possible. For a few minutes, I want you to talk with the people at your table using a demonstration of these basic terms. Some of these are probably basic words that you are familiar with. Let's take 3 minutes. I want you to talk with folks at your table and see if you can explain these using plain language. Your 3 minutes start now. All right, let's bring things back in. Were you all able to help simplify some of these terms? Yeah? We've got some momentum going, and our basics are sorted. So, I want to help build out your skills a little bit more. I want to see a show of hands from groups at every table thinking about your pitches. How many of you would say right now that your pitches include the following things? Keep your hands up if you have each one covered. Number 1, do you have a breakdown of your proposal? Raise your hands high, it's okay. Number 2, do you have a clear explication of the problem that your pitch will solve? And number 3, do you have an explanation of how your proposal solves the problem? We're getting a little more confident as we go through, which is good. All 3 of these things matter. It is essential that you are able to identify a problem, a plan, and a solution. To do so, I think you can learn from debaters. Policy debaters use several different approaches for structuring their cases, but they work with topics year-round. And when they do, they structure very thorough and carefully planned texts to identify a problem and explain how it can be solved. You can take from this using the basic format of their case structure. Use these 6 pieces to help improve your pitch. First and foremost, the significance. What is the problem and why does it matter? Second are harms. Who is adversely impacted by the problem that you're tackling? Third is inherency. Will the problem solve itself? Why is your action needed? Fourth is the plan. What are you proposing? Fifth, and perhaps most important, is solvency. How will your plan solve the harms? And sixth, advantages. Does it have any additional benefits? Take 3 more minutes to talk with the folks at your table and see if you can figure out these components in your pitch. Your time starts now. Got a few seconds left. All right, our 3 minutes are up. Were you all able to help figure out some of these pieces? Yeah. Good. We have one last thing to cover, and then I'm going to leave you off to work. When it comes to building skills, I have found more and more often you all already know how to navigate some of these spaces as long as you remember to identify them. So, I want to put 5 pieces into your brains and think about answering these questions. First and most obvious one, of course, is your topic. Can you translate it into plain language? Secondly, perhaps one you may not have thought through yet, are your team's speaking strengths and weaknesses. Who is good at what? And what does that mean for their anxieties and the success of your team? Third is your speech environment. How big is the space that you are going to be pitching in? And where and how is your audience listening? It will be essential that you project your voice to match the space. Some of you are soft-spoken. I could hear it as you entered the room. It will be essential that your judges can hear you no matter where they are sitting. Fourth are your speech tools. If you're planning to use slides, how are you going to design them? What is going into them? And how much information do you really need to make them useful? And lastly, and most importantly, is your audience. Who is listening to you? What do you know about them? And how can you adapt to them in the moment? Some of the best speakers that I've seen win speech competitions are not the ones that are natural maestros at their craft. They were the ones who realized in the moment they had a judge who had never judged a competition before, and they needed to explain things in a different way. The best speakers are those who can identify those at a glance and improvise and adapt their language to suit their audience's needs. If you can do that, it will separate you and make you a great speaker rather than a good one. This is where we part. You only have a couple hours left to prep. Take this time to practice and improve your pitch. Remember that debate and discussion is normal in teams. It's essential that you all navigate any disagreements you have and work on them as best you can. And then lastly, these slides, as well as a one-page handout, will be shareable in the future. I believe Alexander is planning to send them out after the workshop is finished. I will stick around in case any of you have any questions for me, but I will probably leave by noon. I wish you all the best of luck. My email address is also on these slides, so if you would need a consultation or some advice, I am happy to help you. Best of luck.